We have 7 days left until this window ends, so in today's video, learn the latest news around Aubameyang, Frenkie de Jong, Rafael, Leao, Ziyech, as well as Wesley, Fofana. Tons of things to discuss as we get to the final stages of the window. Expect big things to come, but before I continue on, I want to let you guys know that I do plan to do a live stream for the group stage UCL draw, so make sure you guys watch that with me, and let's hope that we get an easy group for the start of our new CL campaign. Hope you guys enjoy, and getting straight into things. So right now, let's start by discussing the latest news on Ziyech. Now, there are big updates surrounding his potential move back to Ajax, as well as Tottenham showing some interest currently over possibly making a move to sign the player, with some reports in Holland suggesting that Ziyech would prefer to remain in England because in a sense he has completed his stay playing in the Eredivisie, but in my opinion I don't see how Ziyech makes sense at Tottenham. I mean, playing that wing-back role, maybe he's getting more game time there, but I just think playing back three football that's a lot more rigid and requires a lot more defensive aptitude, I'm not too sure it makes sense for him. So let's focus on the big reports around Ajax and us. Now currently we are stuck in negotiations with them, and it comes down to the valuation that we've placed on Ziyech. We want around 44 million euros from Ajax before selling the player back to them, which is a crazy amount of money, and essentially we do want to recover the cost back that we originally spent to sign Ziyech in the first place from Ajax. Now Ajax prefer to sign him on loan first. Ideally that would involve a loan fee as well as paying 5 million euros for his salary, as Ziyech is earning around 10 million euros per season. The asking price we want for Ziyech is just way too much for Ajax at this point in time, and actually some Dutch reports today have suggested that Ziyech would prefer a permanent move away from us and is definitely open about returning back to Ajax. His contract does expire in 2025, he still has 3 years left on his deal, and essentially Ziyech's fear is that after a potential loan spell at Ajax, he'd have to return back to us, so I don't know what to make of that, to be honest with you. But regardless, we know that Antony, Ziyech, their fates are combined at this point in time. United feel quite confident over the fact that they can get a deal for Antony over the line, and it seems like a bid of around 80 to 85 million pounds could be enough to get this deal over the line. So you'd imagine that knowing that they could be selling Antony and that Ziyech is the key replacement they're currently looking at, we'd want to demand some money from them. Now maybe 44 million euros is just a bit too substantial, but could we accept maybe lower fees of around 30 plus more euros? I say this because let's actually consider Ajax. They broke their club record signing by signing Bergwijn from Spurs for around 28 million pounds. Ajax are a club known for buying players in their infancy, developing them, and then flipping these guys on for maximum money in the future. So it doesn't make too much sense for them to commit so much money to signing Ziyech. And for me, like, a part of me wishes that we were currently doing business to maybe have Ziyech returning back to Ajax, offering some money to try and sign Antony. But the reality is Antony plays as a right winger and we don't use wingers in the system, so it's a bit of a shame that, you know, due to our system demands, it can kind of limit us in terms of the players we can look towards in the market. So let's see what happens with this one, because if Ajax can't find that replacement for Antony, would they allow Antony to sign for Man United? I mean, potentially, because it's still a ridiculous amount of money. And I guess currently it means that the Ajax board now have to spend some time to decide what the next move is. Do they continue to maybe explore the possibility of re-signing Ziyech, or do they stick with the young players they have currently and let them grow? Or do they decide to keep Antony, which in my opinion wouldn't make sense considering the player wants to leave and you're getting a ridiculous amount of money for him. So now we move on to the next story, and let's talk Aubameyang. Now, I have to say I'm a bit confused by some of the reports I've been breaking down for you guys, because how many reports have we read together suggesting that we have agreed now final fees to get this deal over the line, only for more reports to come out the next day suggesting that there's still a difference that has to be met. Hopefully today is the final day that, you know, this entire Aubameyang saga ends and we can move on and focus on signing other guys to improve the team. Now, in my opinion, I thought this final fee of around 18.6 million plus 4.2 million in add-ons was accepted and was enough. It seems like that's not the case. Barcelona want cash only and they want 25 million to sell the player. So realistically, we aren't too far away from that valuation. You'd imagine that maybe the additional fees included in the deal just aren't really satisfying Barca's demands because they need money right now. And when you consider that, you know, there's still a possibility that they could still decide to sign Marcos Alonso, Could we maybe pay more money up front, knowing that we're going to offset that overall fee by actually selling Alonso to Barcelona? For me, that makes sense for all parties. And reports that Ben Jacobs, that was on this channel a few weeks back, has confirmed the fact now that it seems like a deal now is finally getting over the line. It seems like it will be a cash fee of around 25 million euros, which is around 21 million pounds. So I think that's fair enough, considering that the original offer of like 80 million pounds, it's only 3 million difference apart, and it doesn't seem to be that substantial. I mean, we have to be realistic. How many options are there in the window currently, with Hudson-Odoi set to sign for Bayer Leverkusen on loan, Werner leaving us, as well as Ziyech looking to make a move too? We have to pay the additional fees to get these guys over the line, and Tuchel is adamant that he wants Aubameyang here for this season. Now, reports today suggest that Aubameyang has bid his final farewells. Him and his family are now flying to Paris to get this deal over the line. It seems like an agreement now has been made. We are waiting now for the official confirmations, of course, to come out. But after that friendly game that Man City and Barcelona played last night, where Aubameyang scored this like unreal first time half volley goal from some mad acute angle, it seemed like he was bidding his farewell to the fans as well as his teammates too. So it seems like we should be expecting Aubameyang to be here very, very soon and to become one of the new additions for this season. So now, my friends, let's move on to the next story. So now let's discuss the big news today coming out on Rafael Leao. Now, you'd imagine that once this story first came out, we're going to continue to get more reports and reports and reports coming out daily. And Italian reports suggest that we are happy to offer Milan 90 million plus add-ons and present the player a 5-year contract to possibly get this deal over the line. In total, this could add up to the value of around 120 million euros, which is around, I think, 90 million to 100 million pounds. Ideally, Maldini does not want to allow Leao to leave. Of course, we have to respect the fact that they won the Scudetto last season. You know, they have aspirations to win the league again, as well as do things in European football as well too. But in this game, money does talk. Now, we already know that Todd Bowley is a massive fan of Rafael Leao. We know that him and Mendes held talks a few months back discussing all of Mendes' clients, and I'll touch upon that as this story does go on. And for me, it kind of makes sense why we'd explore making a possible move for the player right now, because if he was to potentially sign a new contract extension, it will make things even harder and more expensive to get a deal over the line in the future. He currently has 2 years left on his existing deal, so normally during this time, this is the best period now to make an offer to try and sign him. Now, for me to get this deal over the line, you know, I think Milan could find it quite hard to find an actual replacement for him. We have a few players that are currently a bit unhappy with their situations, and in my opinion, could we potentially offer a Hakim Ziyech maybe plus money to, you know, sway Milan to allow us to actually sign him. And sometimes I also think this, like, how often in football have we seen clubs price up their players for making moves, only for it to be a situation where 9 times out of 10, that player is never worth that same valuation ever again. I think one of the prime examples for me was Callum Wilson, when Bournemouth wanted 60 million to sell their player, and in the end, he was worth nowhere, and today is worth nowhere near that amount of money. Now, reports in Italy have suggested that Mendes, Leao's agent, has every reason now to push his client towards us. Currently, we understand already that Leao does owe money and debts owed to Sporting Lisbon. I've spoken about that a few times. Watch the previous videos. And on top of that, Milan owe Lille 15% of any profits made from his sales. So you'd imagine why Milan would want to sell him for big money. And hopefully before this window ends, this could be the opportunity to get this deal over the line. Now, it's believed that Leao is more than content to remain at Milan, but at the same time, he is not opposed to making a move away if he had to in this window. It seems like it's mainly Mendes, his agent, as well as his French lawyer, who played big pivotal parts in helping him decide his future, that are the main influences now in potentially creating discussion, dialogue, and helping their client move towards us. For them, of course, they'll probably earn big money and fees, which is natural. That's what they're in it for. That's how the game is. But it doesn't really matter. As long as we can sign him, that's all I care about. They're hoping that a final solution of around 100 million could be enough to satisfy all parties. I think that Milan would have to accept the fact that, realistically, even if he was to sign a contract extension, what club would spend 150 million on him? Absolutely no one. So, knowing the fact that we have figures on our side that would push their client to signing for us, let's keep an open mind and let's continue to see how the story develops, because they report that we will present that official bid and offer to Milan very, very soon. So right now we move on to the next story, and let's talk Wesley Fofana. Now, we understand today that Brendan Rodgers has confirmed the fact that he won't be taking any part in our game this weekend against Leicester City, and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, realistically, when you're a manager that can't rely upon a player to use in big Prem competitive games, what is that really telling you about, where the player's head is at and his willingness to play for them? Now, when we look at his performance versus Arsenal, I don't know, part of me always feels like regardless of your circumstances, big players want to test themselves out in the big games. But at the same time now, if your motivation is down because you feel like Leicester City aren't really backing you and making it easy for you to move on and progress your career, where's that motivation to do your best for them? I think that's definitely something to think about, and we can reapply the context of this game now as the weeks have gone by. Currently, we are waiting for that official verbal agreement to be made before presenting an official offer. We know the last one was turned down because the additional fees and clauses included in the deal just weren't good enough. But, this is tactical. Leicester, as Rodgers has reported today, have accepted the fact that they need to maybe move some players on now to reinvest back in the team. But every single day Leicester wastes time in rejecting us and not playing ball. It means it's another day in which they make it harder for themselves to find the right replacements for the players they're about to leave. So it does feel like potentially as time goes on, things fall more in our favour. And I think we have to understand the fact that we shouldn't be paying any world record fees for anyone. That doesn't make sense. The money that they receive from Maguire from Man United comes down to Man United's naivety and stupidity, in my opinion. Let's not make anomaly money the norm in this game. It makes no sense. And even talking about Harry Maguire, reported by Nazar Gonzalez from the Evening Standards, there's still some suggestions that we maybe might look at Maguire as an alternative in case any move for Fofana does turn down. I mean, the part of me always feels like when you have like system managers and system focused managers, the system really hides the cracks of a lot of these guys, a lot of players that they turn towards. As long as these guys can fulfill the bare minimum and basics of, maximizing how the system is played, you'll start seeing interesting players coming out from nowhere like Maguire being looked at, because I guess in reality, he would make sense playing in a back three. But in terms of that future-proof ability, the guy's already capped as it is, and I don't want us to have a squad full of these limited cap players that are on ridiculous money, that are taking up minutes after minutes. I don't want to see that. Why not just keep Jeff Jalabon? I mean, clubs like Milan, Inter Milan, RB Leipzig, European clubs playing European football are for the guy because he impressed last season. It kind of baffles me still that after having such a great season last season, that he isn't getting more trust and faith shown in him. And I don't really understand why, to keep things real. But anyway, I don't want to talk about Maguire anymore, so right now let's end things with the final story. Now, we got some confirmation from Gerard Romero that De Jong's agent and Ali Dursun has literally left London to fly back to Barcelona to hold more fresh talks over Frenkie de Jong. Now, Man Laporta keeps saying things like Frenkie's more than happy to stay, but I guess for me the underlying message is if you are staying here, you're accepting more pay cuts, and currently we know that de Jong is not very keen to do so. So for me, this move will continue to go down to the final days of the window. And after seeing the business Man United are doing, signing Casemiro, being close to potentially capturing Antony as well too, it does feel like their interest in de Jong now, they'll be our main competitors to get this deal over the line. And in my opinion now, am I as confident in assuming that de Jong would pick us over Man United every single day of the week? I'm not too sure. So many conflicting reports suggesting that he'd only sign for a club that has CL football, European football. However, at the same time, some reports also suggest as well that he would be open to signing for them. And, if they were to capture him alongside your Casemiros, your Antonys, your Martinez's, I mean, United are slowly but surely building a pretty interesting team. And with a manager like Ten Hag, who's a very serious manager and coach, we can't get too complacent. So it's interesting that his agent left London. And that with the talks we're holding currently with Barcelona over Alonso, Aubameyang and Frenkie de Jong, things will get very interesting. Now, remember reports suggesting that we've agreed personal terms and we've agreed the package of Barcelona. It's about getting the final confirmation now from de Jong. It's believed that Barcelona are still needing de Jong to leave, of course, to raise more money to register more players. Jules Koundé, for example, has to be registered properly before the 31st of August, and we're not too far away from that. So a part of me is feeling that Frenkie de Jong will still be forced out, but he is exploring every single possibility to do his best to remain at Barcelona. So it'll be a very interesting one to see. I'm looking forward to the reports coming out. You know, how much more information is there going to be? Time will tell. But you guys, on that note, I'm going to wrap things up, keep things moving. I'm in EFC. This is BlueLionsTV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos. Cool.